3 haunted encounters with the unexplained. Terrifying secrets revealed from the sinister shadows. Sarah had heard the stories, the haunted houses, the whispers of echoes. But nothing prepared her for the chilling events that began the moment they stepped over the threshold of their new home. One sunny afternoon, laughter filled the backyard as Max and Lily played, a sweet reprieve from the grueling demands of her job as a night nurse. But just as the sun dipped towards the horizon, Max's voice pierced through the blissful noise. "Mom, there's a man by the trees. He's watching us." Her heart dropped. She laughed it off, brushing it aside as an imaginative child's tale. "It's just your imagination, buddy. Sometimes we see things that aren't really there." Yet, as the evening neared, a dreadful feeling settled over her, like a heavy fog rolling in. After that day, the house shifted. Doors creaked open by themselves. Ghostly sounds echoed through the halls like distant whispers, and unexplainable chills snaked through the air, leaving Sarah cold and uneasy. She could hardly sleep between night shifts, the specter of exhaustion pressing down on her like a weight. Dread wrapped around her, a feeling she couldn't shake. The neighbors, ever watchful, whispered behind their hedges. Sarah caught snippets, words like cursed, dark past, and families. They warned each other in hushed tones, sparking her pulse into a rapid race. So far, no one had welcomed her. Frustrated and afraid, Sarah approached the local police to report the strange happenings. They dismissed her concerns, their eyes glazed over with indifference, calling them the ramblings of a tired single mother. Each day in Maplewood felt like stepping deeper into a shadowy labyrinth of fear. The veneer of normal life cracked under the weight of unspoken terrors lurking behind her walls. One particularly restless night, she felt the air thickening. She was not alone. A loud crash shattered the stillness, spinning her around. Leaping from her bed, Sarah rushed to the children's room, panic surging. She found Max trembling under his blankets, while Lily stared, wide-eyed, at the window, seeming to commune with something unseen. The air became electric, thick with tension. In that moment, the fleeting shadows in the corner stretched unnaturally, coalescing into something grotesque. Her heart pounded in her chest. Stay, or flee. Before she could act, the shadows twisted, revealing eyes that glimmered with an ancient hunger. The walls of her home echoed the aching weight of secrets best left buried. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The shadows breathed, eyes locking onto hers with a malevolent intensity. Goosebumps ran down Sarah's arms. The temperature dropped, clinging to her like a damp cloth, and she could barely breathe. This was no simple haunt. This was something far darker, far older. As she pulled her children close, she felt the weight of the community's whispers tightening around her throat like a noose. What had they all known about the entity that claimed its alliances amid the lost and the misunderstood? In that desperate silence, she understood. To protect her children, she had to confront the entity not just within her home, but the very fabric of Maplewood itself. The echoes of an ancient curse began to swirl around them. What terrifying price would she pay to break free from the darkness? And as she stared into the abyss, it was clear that the shadows were just beginning to awaken. A suffocating silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant rustle of branches outside. Sarah's heart raced as she fought the waves of panic threatening to pull her under. The icy gaze of the shadows bore down on her, their hunger palpable. She had to act. Max, Lily, listen to me. We're going to leave the room. We have to move now. Her voice quivered, but urgency fueled her. She grabbed Max's trembling hand, yanking him out from under the covers. Lily remained fixed by the window, transfixed by the unseen entity that loomed beyond the glass. "Mommy, he wants to talk," Lily said, her voice eerily calm amidst the storm of terror swirling around them. "No, sweetie, we need to go." Panic surged through Sarah as she tugged at Lily's shoulder, forcing her attention away from the window. With every moment they lingered, the shadows thickened, creeping closer, their ancient hunger insatiable. As they bolted from the room, an unearthly howl echoed down the hallway, chilling her to the bone. She pressed forward, the chill of dread crawling up her spine, urging her to run. She could feel the shadows swirling behind them, almost tangible, like frigid fingers grasping at her clothes. "Mom, what was that?" Max cried out, eyes wide with terror. "Keep moving," she shouted, her voice strained as she kicked through the oppressive atmosphere. They dashed down the stairs, the old wood creaking under their hurried steps. But there was no escape. The house felt alive, almost as if it conspired against them, every creak and groan building a symphony of dread. They burst into the living room, and the moment they crossed the threshold, all fell eerily silent. The shadows hung in the corners, their movements cloaked in thick darkness, yet they felt ever watchful, ever hungry. It was as if the home itself was a trap, each room a new threat, and escape beyond the front door was only a wish. "Sarah," a voice whispered, striking through her like a dagger. It was deep, ancient, and grating, like rocks scraping together. "You invited us when you entered our domain. Who are you?" she demanded, trying to sound brave, though her voice trembled. "Creators of despair, harbingers of fear. We were here long before you arrived, and we welcomed you." The shadows twisted, swirling to form a half-formed figure, a ghastly visage that sent Sarah stumbling back. "No, I need to protect my children," she shouted, instinct driving her to shield Max and Lily behind her. "The children," the figure hissed. They awakened deeper things. The walls of the house shivered like a living organism, pulsating with the sinister energy of the shadows. Sarah scanned the flickering shadows for any sign of escape. There had to be a way out, but with their spirits taunting her and shadows dancing ominously, she felt trapped in a living prison. Max's small voice broke through the suffocating dark. "Mom, the man he's in the trees." Lily pointed toward the front window, her expression grave, still holding a connection with something waiting just outside. "What does he want?" Sarah's head spun. Was there a way this darkness could be turned against itself? "You must decide," the whispering shadows crooned. "Sacrifice one to save the other." Panic surged again, flooding her veins. She was standing at a precipice, a void opening to an unthinkable twisted fate. There must be another way, an option that didn't mean a choice of sacrifice. She had to break the cycle that threatened her family. But how? Determination swelled. She would uncover Maplewood's dark secrets, or pay the ultimate price. As Sarah faced the shadows, a new question loomed: what price would she pay to get her family out alive? And as the darkness deepened, she knew the twisted history of Maplewood was about to unfold, revealing secrets she could never have imagined. The chill in the air thickened, suffocating Sarah's resolve. Her heart thudded violently against her chest, every beat echoing with fear. They stood in the living room, shadows swirling and flickering around them, closing in like a dark fog. The murmurs of the unseen pressed against her skin, almost inviting her into their ghastly embrace. "Mom, what do we do?" Max whimpered, his small frame shaking against hers. Lily's eyes remained fixed on the window as if transfixed by a sinister puppet show. "He wants to play, Mommy," she said, her tone unnaturally serene. "No games," Sarah snapped, her voice laced with urgency. "We don't want to play anything." The whispers surrounded them, growing louder, more insistent. Children awaken deeper things. Sacrifice. Choice. An image flashed through Sarah's mind, memories of the house flitting by like snapshots. The history of Maplewood loomed over her, dark and foreboding. She recalled the faded newspaper articles. There had been disappearances, strange happenings in these woods, tales of the unseen wanting to break free. "Listen to me, kids," she said, fear scrambling her thoughts. "I need you to trust me no matter what." Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from outside, startling the children. Sarah spun to face the window, heart pounding. A branch had broken, and the figure oaken, dark, and twisted was now unmistakably standing just beyond the glass. Eyes like smoldering coals stared back, piercing and hungry. Step forward, it beckoned silently, mouth moving without sound. Lily began to take a step toward the window, her small feet inching forward. "Mommy, he wants to show me the trees." "Lily, no." Sarah lunged, grabbing her daughter's hand just in time. The connection snapped, and the child's face contorted with confusion. "Why don't you want me to play?" Lily's voice trembled now, a hint of fear creeping in. The shadows thickened, swirling faster, almost in anger. "You're too late." Sarah, the voice cooed from the dark corners. "The game has begun." "Max, we need to find a way out," Sarah shouted, dragging both kids towards the door, her instincts screaming. But something was wrong. The doorknob wouldn't turn, as if held fast by an unseen force. Desperation clawed at her. "Mom, the man!" Max shouted again, pointing at the window. The figure had changed, elongating, its form more monstrous against the glass. It rapped a bony knuckle against it, the sound reverberating in Sarah's mind like a death knell. "Flee or stay," the creature rasped, a grin spreading across its face like a festering wound. "One of us wishes to accept the invitation." Tears pricked Sarah's eyes as she stared at her children. Their faces, innocent and wide with fear, reminded her of everything she fought to protect. The option loomed over her like a grim reaper sacrifice, one to save the other. "No. Leave them alone," she screamed, her voice cracking under the weight of desperation. Suddenly, a chill swept through her, a deeper, sharper cold than before. It felt like fingers trailing down her spine, and she felt herself spilling into helplessness, her mind trying to grasp threads of the reality unraveling around her. With a lurch, the shadows surged forward, and what had been a looming dread now became a tangible force, swallowing her screams. She felt small, trapped in a dark play she had not signed up for. "Choose," the shadows chanted, a cacophony of voices mixing into a nightmarish chorus. As the figure outside beckoned with one hand, extending a gnarled finger, Sarah knew she had to act. But how could she choose? Against the suffocating weight of despair, she needed a weapon, a truth of her own. "Find the mirror in the attic," a distant voice whispered, cutting through the chaos like a knife. "What mirror?" As if sensing her inner query, the shadows twisted, showing images of something stashed away, hidden knowledge. But as she turned to lead her children toward escape, the dark figure at the window vanished, leaving only the tightening grip of shadow. The toying, sinister air of the house thickened. Something waited for them in the attic, something that could either save them or further damn their souls. With trepidation, Sarah took a step toward the staircase. Would the attic reveal the truth, or plunge them deeper into abyss? There was no going back. The question spun like a vortex. Could the mirror shine light on their only hope? And with that thought, they began their ascent into the unknown. As Sarah gripped the staircase railing, the wood felt damp under her palm, slick with a chill that bit into her skin. Each step creaked ominously beneath them, a chorus of groans that echoed the very heartbeat of the house. Max pressed close, looking up with wide, startled eyes, while Lily followed, her gaze still flickering, distracted by shapes long lost in shadow. "Mom?" Max whispered, his voice quavering. "What's in the attic?" "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a murmur. "But we have to find the mirror." The house felt alive, shifting around them as they climbed, a living creature drawn to their fear. The air grew heavier, thick like a fog laden with secrets, suffocating Sarah's resolve. What if it's bad?" Lily's voice broke the silence, her innocence sharp against the looming terror. She clutched her brother's hand tightly, tiny fingers searching for comfort. Sarah's heart thudded uncomfortably. "We have to take the chance," she urged. "Remember what I said? Trust me." They reached the attic door, its surface old and splintered, as if resisting the familiarity of time. The handle was cold, urging her hesitation. With a deep breath, Sarah twisted it, steel scraping against metal. The door swung open with a grating sound, unveiling a darkness so deep it felt almost alive, like a mouth poised to swallow them whole. An uneasy dread gripped her gut. Her instincts screamed for retreat. Yet, she stepped forward, pushing away the fear, pulling her children close. The attic was expansive, cluttered with discarded furniture, old trunks, and layers of dust that spiraled through weak beams of light filtering from a grimy window. "Is it in here?" Max asked, scanning the darkness for signs of the mirror. Shadows danced around them, distorting into shapes that felt cruelly familiar. Suddenly, a distant chime echoed, freezing them in place, sending tremors of ice racing up Sarah's spine. "Mom," Lily whispered. "I know," Sarah croaked, her throat tight with apprehension. From the far corner of the attic, a faint reflection beckoned, as if an old phantom had come to share its secrets. Against the far wall, a mirror hovered, its surface rippling like water disturbed by unseen hands. The frame was ornate and covered in cobwebs, with dark stains that twisted like fingers reaching for deliverance. "Is that it?" Max asked, his voice trembling with a mix of hope and terror. "I think so," she replied, taking a cautious step forward. As she approached, the mirror shimmered, warping the reality around them. Her reflection flickered, replaced momentarily by a shadowy figure behind her, ghastly and grotesque, lingering just beyond her view. "Step closer," the echoing whispers begged, a haunting chorus surrounding them. "Choose wisely," a sliver of doom sliced through her heart. "No," she shouted, spinning around, but there was nothing, just the growing darkness, swirling, an omnipresent void that yearned for her to give in to despair. Max clung to his sister, his lips trembling. "Mom, it's not safe, I know," she cried, desperation clawing at her voice. She faced the mirror, barely able to make out the shapes of her children trembling behind her. "What do you want from us?" The surface rippled, the dark water drawing in memories, regrets, and fears. Images flashed her past, moments she thought long buried her childhood. The night she lost her brother to the woods. A sharp pain twisted in her chest. Sacrifice, choice, the whispers increased, echoing in maddening harmonies. "What will you offer?" "Mom?" Max's voice cracked as he edged back. "I want tea, let it take you," Sarah shouted fiercely, her heart racing. "We'll find a way to break this curse." But just as the resolve sparked within her, the figures in the mirror shifted, swirling together to form the horrific man from the window, now grinning wider, eyes burning like embers. "Choose," he taunted, drawing closer, fingers outstretched. The air turned electric, tinged with palpable dread. Sarah's breath hitched. The choice loomed, a tug of war against her soul. She felt the shadows beckoning, urging. Should she step away from the mirror and the promise it held, or relinquish one of her children to the darkness? "What do I do?" she whispered to herself. As she teetered on the brink, the attic darkness thickened, and then, the floor began to tremble. Dust fell from the rafters, and the very house shuddered as if in fear of something terrible about to emerge. Behind them, the door slammed shut. "Run!" Sarah screamed, but the shadows were faster, undulating in desperate swirls, mirroring her own growing panic. How could she save them now? And as the echo of their footsteps faded, a chill laughter filled the space. Lingering in the corners of her mind, was anything safe anymore? Or had they already sealed their fate? The moment the door slammed, Sarah's heart jumped into her throat. Panic coursed through her veins like ice, fighting against the urgency of the situation. The attic shrank around them, the shadows crowding closer, their sinister whispers merging into a cacophony that felt all too alive. "Mom!" Lily cried, her voice trembling. "Stay close," Sarah pleaded, clutching the kids tighter. She searched the room, her pulse racing. The mirror pulsed with that damned light, a siren luring them deeper into the unseen horror. "We need to find another way out." But the attic had shifted. Where the wooden beams had once framed a safe escape, they now loomed like prison bars. Each creak of the floor was a reminder that they were not alone. The energy in the room felt oppressive, like hands closing around her throat tight, suffocating. The mirror had become an altar of anxiety, an electric pull demanding attention. Sarah struggled to resist, dragging her children with her towards the clutter of old trunks, hoping they could climb over the debris to the far wall. "Mom, I see the man," Max whimpered, his voice choked with terror. Every instinct told Sarah to turn and shield her children from whatever horror lay beyond, but the grim urgency of their exit pressed down heavier than the fear itself. "No, don't look at it," she shouted, battling against the growing fear that trembled in the pit of her stomach. An icy wind swept through the attic, chilling her skin, biting deeper than any winter chill. Dust motes spiraled through the feeble light, making it even harder to see. Suddenly, shadows darted across the walls, twisting into caricatures of their worst nightmares, figures with grinning faces, clawed hands, and haunting eyes. "Why are we stuck here?" Lily sobbed, burying her face against Sarah's shoulder. "We're getting out. I promise," Sarah whispered fiercely, though her heart was heavy with doubt. They scrambled over the trunks, narrowly avoiding a snag with a splintered edge. But the shadows seemed to reach for them, flickering at the edges of her vision. As they reached the far wall, Sarah's stomach lurched. The window glowed faintly, a sliver of moonlight breaking through the veil of shadows, illuminating a different world beyond a world they craved, distorted now just as the attic mirrored their fears. "Mom, we can't go back to the mirror," Max cried, terror bleeding through his words. "No, but we can break out." Sarah's determination surged. She shoved against the old chest blocking the wall and dropped to her knees, searching for a loose plank, a hidden latch, anything. But the whispers surged, drowning out reason. "Join us, Sarah," they hissed, imagining a dark communion. "Give in. Surrender, no," she roared, mustering every ounce of defiance she possessed. The shadows lunged, coiling around Max, tugging at him with chilling tendrils. His terrified scream pierced the air, raw and anguished. "Mom!" With a primal roar, Sarah lunged forward, grabbing Max's wrist with an iron grip. She pulled him away, heart racing, and then turned to see Lily, but where was Lily? Lily! Panic-stricken, Sarah spun, gaze sweeping the attic. But the whispers had morphed into joyous laughter, thick with malice. The mirror pulsed ominously now, a beacon of dread, and for a fleeting moment, she thought she could see Lily's reflection smiling, beckoning her to join. "Mommy, help!" Lily's soft cry rippled through the chaos, barely audible beneath the horror. "Hold on to each other," Sarah shouted, trying to drown out the cacophony of voices hissing promises and threats. She felt the wall behind her a splintering edge, rough and jagged. Maybe it could give way. The shadows seemed to rise, clawing higher, pressing in closer. "You can't escape," they chanted. "You belong to us now." "No," Sarah cried, and with every shred of strength, she thrust her hands against the wall. Max grabbed Lily, but the shadows seeped through the cracks of her resolve. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of the man in the mirror. His expression twisted in a sinister grin as he molded the darkness into a tempest, swirling dangerously around them. "Choose," he taunted again, his voice echoing, intertwining with the shadows. The attic flickered, spinning into chaos, and Sarah realized something: she had to act now or lose everything. "Together," she yelled, her voice louder than the whispers. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her chest. As she prepared to strike the wall, the whole house trembled violently. Dust cascaded from the rafters, painting the air in gray. "It's coming," she shouted, and in that moment, a hauntingly familiar figure emerged from the mirror, its wretched eyes locking onto her, a reflection of someone she had lost long ago. "Mom!" Max screamed as the darkness surged around them, engulfing everything in sight. Did she have the strength to face this past? The shadows danced, pulling tighter, and the house shuddered again as its very foundation groaned under the weight of their terror. What awaited them beyond this threshold? The mirror beckoned once more, daring her to choose before it was too late. The entire attic seemed to vibrate with tension, every creak and moan of the floorboards a reminder of their precarious situation. Sarah's hands trembled as she pressed against the wall, feeling for anything that might give way. The shadows, thickening around them, pulsated with malevolence, their whispers a maddening chorus that seeped into her mind. "Mom, I can't hold on," Max wailed, his small body trembling, torn between the grasp of shadows and his mother's iron grip. Clarity cut through Sarah's fear. This moment was about survival. She gritted her teeth, pushing against the wall harder. A loose board shifted, and hope flared within her, fragile but real. "I found something," she shouted, her voice fighting against the oppressive noise. The wall groaned, echoing her desperation as she grabbed the edge of the board. But before she could pry it open, the shadows lunged, their wispy fingers curling around Max. "Join us, sweet boy," they hissed. "No," Sarah screamed, yanking Max back. But it was like pulling against a tide. For every inch she reclaimed, the shadows crawled closer. "We need to help Lily. Where is she?" Panic clawed at her throat. The mirror shimmered as the sinister figure stirred within, its eyes glowing with an unearthly light. "Bring her to me, Sarah," it cooed, voice dripping with dark promise. Perhaps she would like to stay forever. The temptation cloyed at her, almost inviting her to consider the impossible. Could she truly leave this horror behind? Was it even possible to survive this night? The shadows intensified, swirling, howling for her attention and swallowing her thoughts in their dark embrace. "Mommy!" Lily's voice pierced through the icy grip of fear, echoing again from somewhere deeper in the attic. I'm scared." Bal rose in Sarah's throat. "Lily," she called, desperation pouring from her every word. "Sweetheart, we're coming. Just hold on." Max was shaking, his eyes wide with fear, but she couldn't think about that. The walls seemed to pulse with the shadows, creeping closer, closing off their refuge. She could almost feel their icy breath on her skin. Glancing back to the mirror, she saw the figure smiling, its grin wider, almost gleeful. "Choose to join me, Sarah, and the children shall be free," it lured, breath sweet with sinister malice. Panic surged. "No," she cried, fierce and unyielding, forcing herself to face the haunting apparition. "I choose to save my children." It was a moment of clarity, a solid line drawn against the darkness. Another echo of Lily's cry vibrated through the attic. "Mommy, please." This time, the shadows flinched, recoiling as if her rejection scorched them. Sarah's heart raced. She lunged forward, pushing harder against the wall with Max at her side. "We can do this, Max. Help me." Together, their palms pressed against the wall, where the loose board trembled, like a heartbeat ready to be freed. The shadows screamed, their fury crackling against her skin. The attic was alive with chaotic energy, threatening to consume them whole. Just as the board creaked further, lifting slightly, the ceiling above split with a deafening crack. Dust rained down upon them, a swarm of shadows leaching through the fissures, reaching for their lives. "Sarah." A voice boomed. The sinister man was now almost tangible, the air thickening as he grew closer. "It's all lost unless you give in." She hesitated for just a heartbeat, doubt digging ice-cold fingers into her mind. But then an image flashed in her mind, Lily's smiling face, the warmth of her laugh, the sweet embrace they shared. Suddenly, the world shifted. The shadows around them surged with feral rage, and the house began to shudder violently. "No, no, no," Sarah cried, her instincts flaring. In the chaos, she felt the loose board lift completely. She shoved her weight against it, creating just enough space. "Now," she shouted to Max. "We dive." A roar filled the space as the mirror shattered behind them, jagged glass scattering like 1,000 glinting stars. But just as they were about to leap into the unknown, the laughter of the man echoed triumphantly. "You can't escape your fate. I'll find you again." With a heart-stopping leap, they plunged forward, feeling the grasping darkness try to pull them back. Then silence. They landed hard, a thud against something soft, completely disoriented. Blinking against the sudden flood of light, Sarah gasped. They were outside but in a world twisted and warped, the air thick with dread. Where were they now? Before them unfolded a sprawling landscape, shadows still flickering toward them, tethered by some unseen thread. And behind them, through the jagged remnants of the shattered mirror, the man inched closer, eyes aimed squarely at Sarah. "What have you done?" he snarled, as the night around them churned, waiting for their next move. Would she face him again, or would this twisted land ensnare them forever? The air felt thicker here, like a pressing weight against their chests. Shadows twisted unnaturally at the edges of their vision, whispering incoherent curses that scraped at Sarah's sanity. She shielded Max with her body, heart racing, trying to comprehend where they had landed. "Mom, I want to go home," Max whimpered, trembling against her. "Me too, baby. Just stay close." She squeezed his shoulder, a poor attempt at comfort. Before them stretched a landscape where the sun bathed everything in a sickly, muted glow, the sky a perpetual twilight, gray and swirling. The silhouettes of crooked trees zigzagged against the darkened horizon, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands desperate for flesh. "Where's Lily?" Max's voice sharpened, slicing through Sarah's thoughts. The name pierced the air, and the shadows gathered, inching closer, eager to consume the moment. Sarah looked back, but the crack in the mirror was a distant memory now, the man lost in the shattering echoes. "Lily," she shouted, voice trembling. Her heart hammered in her throat as silence descended, thick and heavy. The eeriness of the place clawed at her mind. They walked cautiously, each step a battle against the pervasive dread. The trees swayed as if alive, moaning with an ancient sorrow. A chill wrapped around them, tightening as if the shadows were closing in for a feast. "Mom!" Max's voice was tight with fear. "Over there." Sarah's eyes darted to where he pointed. A small figure stood a few yards away, shrouded in darkness. It swayed, hesitant, barely visible. "Lily?" she called, urgency tightening her voice. The figure turned, revealing wide, terrified eyes. "Mommy!" It was her daughter, but something was different. The shadows clung to her like a second skin, distorting her form. "Lily, stay right there." Panic surged through Sarah. The shadows around her seemed to hiss, angry at her discovery, twisting and spiraling like a storm of darkness. "Don't come closer," Lily cried, her voice laced with despair. "They want to let me go." The words hit like a punch to Sarah's gut. "What do you mean? Who want to let you go?" The shadows pulsed violently, responding to her question, enveloping Lily tighter. "They want me. Mom, I can't fight them." Sarah reached for her daughter, willing every ounce of strength into her limbs. "No, we're a family. I want to let them take you." Suddenly, from the depths of the growing shadows, the figure of the man materialized, eyes burning with malevolence. "You shouldn't have come here," he sneered, laughter like shards of glass. "You've unleashed something far darker than you understand." Max tugged at Sarah's arm, pulling her back instinctively. "Mom, I'm scared." With every nerve firing, Sarah steadied herself. She could not allow fear to control her. Not now, when her daughter needed her. "Listen to me, Lily," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You have to fight. You're stronger than them. Remember our songs? Remember your light." Lily's eyes flickered, momentarily piercing through the veil of shadows. The pulse of power surged within Sarah as if her daughter could hear her, feel the spark of hope igniting in the dark. She took a step forward, feeling the shadows writhe beneath her feet, biting at her ankles. "Fight it." The words fell from Sarah's lips like a prayer, and for the briefest moment, the shadows hesitated, almost recoiling from the warmth of her conviction. But the man laughed again, louder this time. "You think mere words can save her? The darkness is insatiable." In a swift move, the shadows closed in, engulfing Lily's form. Sarah gasped, terror exploding in her chest. "No." She lunged forward, reaching for her daughter, feeling the chilling grasp of shadows wrapping around her wrists, dragging her toward the darkness. "Mom!" Lily cried out, fear echoing in the dimness, and then everything imploded into chaos. The world around them began twisting and stretching, reality fracturing like a nightmare. Shadows surged with furious energy, warping time and space itself. And then they were falling down into an abyss, a cacophony of voices screaming for release echoed in the void. Sarah's heart pounded, the weight of despair unbearable. Would they ever escape? As they plummeted, the ground below started to shimmer, revealing a faint glimmer of light. But that light flickered like a breath on the wind, uncertain and fragile just like their chances of survival. What would it reveal? Would it lead to salvation? Or was it another trap? The fall felt endless. Time distorted in the void, where sound folded into silence, leaving Sarah in a suffocating embrace of nothingness. Her mind raced with thoughts that spiraled into fear, each second dragging her deeper into despair. Max's weight felt heavier, slipping through her fingers as the darkness clung to him like a desperate parasite. Suddenly, they landed with a harsh thump on ground that felt like damp earth, chilled and unwelcoming beneath her. Sarah gasped for air, eyes darting around, taking in their surroundings. She spotted Max lying nearby, dazed but miraculously unscathed. "Mom?" he croaked, pushing himself up on shaky arms. Relief flooded through her, then horror gripped her as she realized where they were. The landscape was an echo of the twisted realm they had just fallen from, different, yet unsettlingly familiar. Distorted trees loomed overhead, branches twisting into horrifying shapes, casting jagged shadows that danced at the edges of her vision. Whispers slithered through the air, too faint to be understood, turning the silence into a deafening cacophony of dread. "Lily!" Sarah shouted, panic seeping into her voice. She scanned the area, hardly daring to hope, but dread curled in her stomach as she saw no trace of her daughter. "Max, stay close," she commanded, her voice trembling. He clutched her leg, eyes wide, shimmering with tears. "Where are we, Mom?" He looked around nervously, shadows weaving between the trees as if they were alive. "I don't know, but we need to find your sister." Sarah took a cautious step forward, heart racing, feeling the cold breath of the darkness whispering just behind her. As they moved through the gloom, flashes of light flickered in the corners of her vision, bright, almost hopeful. Each flicker brought a surge of urgency, driving her forward. But every time she turned to focus on it, the light vanished, swallowed whole by the shadows. "Mom, what's that?" Max pointed toward a distant glow pulsing in the distance. It flickered rhythmically, seductive and warm, promising safety. "Let us go check it out." Sarah hesitated, torn between fear and innate survival instinct. The shadows seemed to ripple with anticipation as they approached. The pulse quickened in her chest. What if it was a trick? But something deep inside urged her onward, through the suffocating darkness that threatened to suffocate their every move. They closed the distance, the glow growing more vivid. Shapes emerged, slippery and dark, writhing among the trees. Distorted faces twisted in agony, their mouths wide in silent screams. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat but pushed it down with newfound resolve. Max shrank back, his small hand slipping from hers. "Mom, I don't like this. Stay with me," she snapped, the pressure mounting. In the center of the growing light, something moved. A figure coalesced, a childlike form, shrouded in shifting shadows. "Help me," it called, a voice eerily familiar. Sarah's heart stopped. "Lily?" The figure turned, eyes wide but hollow, brimming with a mixture of light and darkness. The fiery glow of the light flickered ominously, revealing Lily's face momentarily, before she melted back into the chaos. "Mom, they won tea, let me go." The familiar plea shattered Sarah like glass, desperation igniting in her chest. Without thinking, she lunged toward the light, the shadows clawing at her ankles, pulling her back with icy fingers. "No, I'm coming for you. Mom, help." Lily's voice echoed, sharper now, as if the darkness twisted it into something sinister. Max was yelling, pulled from her grasp, slipping away into the shadows, and sudden panic clawed at Sarah's throat. "Max!" she screamed, dread wrapping around her heart. She turned, feeling the shadows clawing at her, their whispers growing louder, seething with rage. The glow flickered violently, and something shifted in the air. A reflection of her own terror stared back at her from the darkness. Would she find her child? Or would she be swallowed whole like so many before her? The shadows surged, engulfing her in a rush of cold, suffocating blackness. She fell again, right into the heart of the chaos. What awaited her? Was it Lily or another nightmare waiting to unfold? Sarah was adrift in a churning abyss, breathless and lost. The world spun around her like a terrible carnival ride, both thrilling and nauseating. The shadows grasped at her, wrapping around her waist like tendrils of a dark octopus, pulling her down, deeper, into its cold heart. She couldn't scream. Every sound felt swallowed whole. Panic surged, causing her limbs to feel heavy, as if they too had been entangled in the grasping dark. The remnants of Max's cries and Lily's desperation echoed dimly at the edges of her consciousness, fighting against the encroaching silence. A flicker of light appeared just ahead, bright enough for her to see, pulsing with raw energy. With a frenzied desperation, she clawed her way towards it, propelled by the whispers of her children that rose like a sinister choir around her. "Lily! Max!" she called into the void, her voice strained yet fierce. The light grew nearer, and in its glow, she caught glimpses of faces twisted in confusion and fear, like reflections trapped in a shattered mirror. Her heart clenched. Were these lost souls? Was this what awaited her if she faltered? In a staggering leap, she grasped the edge of a thick tree trunk illuminated by the glow. The shadows receded slightly, revealing their true form glistening, ghastly masses resembling living darkness. Their voices cried out. One called her name in a crooked rasp, making her skin crawl. "Sarah, help us!" She flinched at the sound, recognizing the voice. It was Lily again, distorted yet achingly familiar. "Please, I'm trapped." "Not her," came another voice, louder, more forceful. It echoed like thunder in the stillness, making her ears pulse. "Help us instead." "Mom! Field of enemies!" The words hammered through her like a nail, fear gripping her heart. For the child's voice was pulled out from an unseen chasm. Shadows tightened around her ankles, the pain of their icy grasp a stark reminder of the dire situation. "Let me go," she yelled, thrashing, trying to free herself. The whispers morphed into a cacophony, colliding around her, building a wall that threatened to crush her under the weight of their desperation. "One breaks free, one remains," it chanted, over and over, sending chills racing along her spine. "Mom!" A sudden flash illuminated a path before her, an opening in the wall of terror. It was a fleeting glimpse, but her instincts kicked in. She wrestled against the dark, pulling herself closer to the flicker, forcefully breaking free from the clutches that held her. No time to think. She sprinted forward, propelled by sheer will and the hope of saving her children. The landscape swirled, the oppressive darkness giving way to a clearer view. She burst into a narrow clearing, breathless, her eyes scanning frantically for any sign of Max or Lily. In this strange, haunting clearing, she spotted them, small figures huddled close together, faces pinched with panic. "Mom! We were so scared," Max gasped as if he'd been holding his breath. But the relief melted away as a shadow rose behind them. Towering and looming with elongated arms that stretched into grotesque claws, it thrummed with violent energy. "Sarah!" The entity rasped, the sound a dissonance of her children's voices melding into one. "You must choose." Her chest tightened. "Choose what? Who stays and who goes?" Fear shattered her. "No, I want to do this." The shadows writhed, their intent clear, and she stood at the edge of a dire precipice. One path leading to her children and the other into the chaotic unknown that beckoned her away. Caught between obliteration and salvation, would she be strong enough to confront the darkness? Would her love be enough to shatter its hold? As the dark claws reached for her, she felt the ground tremble. Something shifted, a push from the unknown. "Fight for us," they urged, hauntingly melodic, coursing through her like a fire igniting under ashes. Then the decision loomed large. Whom would she save, and what would that mean for her and the ones left behind? As the shadows pressed closer, a desperate glare reflected from her children's eyes, illuminating the growing tension of what lay ahead. Would her next step lead them toward freedom or further into the void? The shadows twirled, swirling, cackling in maddening excitement as Sarah stood frozen at the edge of her reality. The entity loomed large, a dark embodiment of every fear she'd ever faced, and its voice twisted her insides like a knife. One of you must stay, one must go, never. Sarah screamed defiantly, the sound echoing off the dark trees that surrounded them. I want to choose. You can't force me. The shadows rippled and quivered, their forms flickering like candle flames caught in a gust of wind. They grew hungry, more insistent, reaching out toward Max and Lily. With a burst of primal determination, she stepped closer to her children, fists clenching, staunchly guarding them. If you want one of us, you'll have to take us all. Mom! Max whimpered, his small frame pressed tightly against Lily's. Her heart ached at the vulnerability reflected in their eyes. Nothing will take you from me. You're stronger than these shadows, she urged, summoning every ounce of love that filled her heart. Remember who you are. Lily stepped forward, her small voice cutting through the dark, courage blooming in her expression. Mom, we can fight them together. Yes, together, Sarah echoed, seizing this moment of unity. We're family. Love binds us, and love can conquer any darkness. The shadows shrank back, recoiling as if burned. Love? The entity hissed in disbelief. Love means nothing here. Pain is the only truth that exists. No, Sarah challenged, her voice a fierce roar of defiance. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and the shadows faltered. We refuse to accept your lies. Then you will perish. The entity screeched, but Sarah felt an unexpected warmth surging through her, igniting the air around them. Stand with me, she shouted, reaching for each of her children's hands. Max grabbed her left while Lily clasped her right, their small fingers weaving into hers like roots tethering a mighty tree against itself, unwavering. Together, they took a bold step forward, drawing upon the love that coursed through their shared bond. The shadows darkened momentarily, their whispers rising into a cacophony of outrage. With a scream that felt like the very essence of the heavens, Sarah and her children surged with a wave of light, the shadows hissing in agony. Feel your power, Sarah shouted, the light around them radiating, illuminating the immediate surroundings. The darkness squirmed, a living entity in pain, and the towering figure shifted, shrinking in fear. Bolstered by her love, Sarah pushed, forcing the darkness to the edge. The shadows howled, their voices a mix of despair and fury. You'll regret this, they shrieked, even as they began to retreat. Never, they cried together, arms lifted high, swirling light circling them bright, pure, and potent. The shadows writhed as they dissolved into nothingness, their malignance shattered like glass in sunlight. The oppressive atmosphere evaporated, leaving behind a sky unfurling with warm dawn, the sun breaking over the horizon, golden rays spilling across the ground like honey. For a moment, the world felt new and alive, breathing with every heartbeat. Did we win? Max asked, his voice still shaken, but filled with the spark of hope. Sarah knelt down, pulling both of them into a fierce embrace. She could hardly believe they were free, threading their lives together in this moment, finally safe. We did, she breathed, tears spilling down her cheeks, a flood of relief and joy bursting forward. We'll always fight together, no matter what. Behind them, the remnants of shadows dissolved into silence, scattered like mist ebbing away into the morning sun. As they turned to head back home, the weight of fear and despair lifted. Each step felt lighter, every breath full of the promise of a new day. They walked hand in hand, no longer haunted by what had lurked in the dark, but ready to embrace the bright tomorrows awaiting them. They arrived back at their house, its walls no longer menacing. Sarah stood before her children, hope lighting her eyes. Whatever comes our way, we will face it together. And together, they stepped into the sunlight, hearts aligned. A trio bound by moments of terror, but fortified by unbreakable love. It was a love strong enough to conquer shadows, one that would always guide them home. In the end, it wasn't about haunting tales or sinister figures. It was about the strength forged through love, family, and the indomitable will to push against darkness together. Don't just stop here. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.